in a US dollar-backed stablecoin, further cementing the United States as the world reserve currency. That is a big deal for US policymakers and for citizens in the United States of America. It's another reason why US policymakers have to get this right, because if we do, we can really cement the US dollar as the world reserve currency, and there's massive benefits for the US economy in doing that.
This episode is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great crypto platform that I've been using since 2018. Uphold makes it easy to buy, sell, trade cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and altcoins. In fact, they have 300 plus cryptocurrencies on their platform, and they carry precious metals such as gold and silver, and you can swap between these assets. So it's really unique. Uphold is safe and reliable. I've never had any issues with them, and they are 100% reserve. You can review their transparency report. They don't commingle or lend out your funds. Now, Uphold recently launched a great product called Uphold Rewards, and it's packed with many benefits. You can earn up to 5.25% on stablecoins, get 24-hour early access to new token listings, and unlock exclusive crypto insights. And they support a variety of stablecoins, such as PYUSD, that's PayPal stablecoin, Circle's USDC, and USBC. They will be supporting Ripple's upcoming launch of RLUSD. So this is a really great rewards program. And if you'd like to learn more, please visit the link in the description. Welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and my guest today is Congressman Bryan Steil, who's a Republican out of Wisconsin. He's also the chairman of the Financial Services Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Artificial Intelligence. Congressman, great to have you on.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me.
Congressman, lots happening in DC around crypto and regulations. And before we get to all of that, though, I do want to ask about your background. Where'd you grow up and what made you decide to get into politics?
Yeah, born and raised in Southeast Wisconsin, worked for a couple large manufacturing companies for the 10 years before I ran for office. When I first ran in 2018, just over 6 years ago, I'd never run for any elected position. I used to tell people the last thing I ran for was student council in 7th grade, and that I had won that race. And so I was 1 for 1, and I was trying to go 2 for 2. I guess now I'm 4 for 4. But no, I come from a business background, working for manufacturing companies. Far too often you'd see firsthand how the federal government would actually get in the way of developing jobs, creating innovation here in the United States. And that's actually exactly what the Biden administration was doing as it relates to crypto. And so I come with a business background, with a pragmatic mindset of really how do we unleash the American economy and how do we enter the new age of the new golden age of America.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, in the previous administration, there was a lot of attacks against this crypto industry and technology. And it's not a political thing. It's just a technology. It's supposed to be neutral, but they made it political. And we saw a lot of crypto voters came out and said, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a single issue voter. I'm going to vote for the president that's supporting this asset class and that can help protect my wealth. What are your thoughts on how that played out?
Well, blockchain technology at its core is about democratizing the internet, in my opinion. I think as we drift from Web 2 to Web 3, it really gives an ownership opportunity for people of digital assets of the digital age. And so as we exit kind of Web 2 with the massive concentration in a small number of tech companies, I think it makes total sense that it's young people that are uniquely interested in the freedoms that will come with Web3 technology, in the underlying principles of blockchain. And then as we think about how does that all operate and run, that's the digital asset side, which allows us to take this leap. And so I think it makes total sense that young people are not interested in being constrained by large corporations. They want that freedom and they want that liberty. And it never made sense to me why the Biden administration really fought this rather than embracing it. The good news is President Trump understands the importance of this innovation and development, but in particular of it occurring here in the United States. And here in Congress, we have a huge opportunity to really unleash that. So we see that innovation, development, and growth here in the United States of America rather than abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a bit about this subcommittee that you're heading up now, for those who may not know.
So on the Financial Services Committee, we have a series of subcommittees. And so French Hill, chairman of the full committee, named me the subcommittee chair of digital assets AI. I jokingly just simplified down to the crypto subcommittee because it's easier to say. We have two huge pieces of legislation that are currently being formulated along with French Hill, there's chairman of the full committee, and others. And that is a bill on market structure that really delineates what government entities have a say and a control in regulating digital assets, as well as a stablecoin bill, which puts forward the building blocks and a regulatory framework for stablecoin in the United States. Beyond that, we have a huge opportunity as it relates to financial technology writ large in other areas in the fintech space. But those are the two gorillas in the room right now that the subcommittee is really diving into.
I saw President Trump recently, I think it was at the White House Crypto Summit, stated that he wanted Congress to have, I believe, the stablecoin bill, if I'm not mistaken, on his desk before the August recess. So do you think, as far as timeline, stablecoins may move first and it could be put on in front of the president by the end of Q2?
So the first crypto summit at the White House, I was there with the president. We had a robust conversation on this. I'm of the belief that we need to move both of them because in large ways, they interact together. If you don't have a market structure, it's hard to do digital assets. If you don't have digital assets, market structure doesn't add the value that it could. And so my hope is that we can work them both together. That said, the Senate has put a little bit more energy and effort into stablecoins first. We're ready to match that work. It's great to finally have partners in the Senate. This Congress, unlike last Congress, partners in the Senate under Chairman Tim Scott, Senator Lummis, Senator Haggerty, who are engaged in this. And so I'm of the belief that we can hit that timeline, that we can be through our work in the House and the Senate by summer. And I could not be more excited that President Trump is leaning in and putting his weight to encourage all of us, all members of Congress, to get this work done.
Now, you mentioned the stablecoin bill in the Senate. I believe Senator Bill Haggerty put that out, the
Yes.
Genius Act. Forgive my ignorance around this. So if that makes it through the Senate, or does it have to go to the House first, make it through the House, then make it through the Senate? How does that work?
Great question. And so this goes all the way back to like how a bill becomes a law, right? In like fifth grade. And there's lots of ways that this could play out. But the way that it's probably going to play out for stable coins is as follows. Senator Haggerty introduced his legislation, the Genius Act, in the Senate. He's got great support, and that bill began its way through the markup, but has not yet passed the full Senate. On the House side, French Hill and I have drafted the Stable Act, a very similar piece of legislation, but not the exact same. It has some small differences that we still need to iron out between our bill and the Genius Act in the Senate. We're going to be introducing an updated version of our bill in the near future as we work to kind of close this gap between the Senate bill and the House bill. If you said when they were first introduced, maybe they were 80% the same, I'd say now as we get to this new introduction, we'll see it about 90% the same. So we're coming in on the home stretch with a handful of issues that we're going to have that conversation with in the Senate. Likely, we both pass our own versions of the bill, which then means we got to sit down, iron out the differences, and then bring back a final product for passage in both the House and the Senate. That's why some of this, the making of the sausage takes a little longer than everybody would like. But it also gives us a real opportunity to make sure that we get it right, because this is the first legislation in this space. And so what we want to do is not only move quickly, but we want to move accurately and have a good, solid product. And I'm of the view that we're going to be able to get that done.
Now, historically, we've seen bills that make it through the Senate. Usually they're packaged with a larger bill. It's a bit harder to move things through the Senate. Do you foresee that maybe the market structure and the stablecoin bill become one massive bill that goes through together? Or are they attached separately to larger bills, farm bills, and things like that?
I'm always of the belief that we're best served when we have single pieces of legislation moving through at a time. That said, you're exactly right. Things often get attached to other bills. I'd like to see this get into law. And so that may be where we have to go. I do think it's reasonably likely that stablecoin and market structure come together. But that's a pretty reasonable pairing, right? That's like peanut butter and jelly coming together in the sandwich. And so that makes a lot of sense. And so goal one, let's get stablecoin through and across the line. Step two, let's get market structure. And then as we're working out these final differences between the House and the Senate, if we get to a spot where everybody reaches agreement and we have those two bills and we move them at the same time, not only is that good because we're through the end, but that's also really exciting because that means we'll probably hit this summer goal that I'm really excited about.
Talk to us a bit about the importance of the stablecoin bill, because outside of payments and the crypto industry, there's implications to the US dollar as the reserve currency globally, and as well as facilitating the buying of US treasuries. It seems there's a geopolitical aspect to this because you have BRICS nations which are trying to bypass the US dollar. So could US dollar backed stablecoins really help position or strengthen the US dollar's reserve currency status?
Tony, it's a great question. And so having the US dollar as the world reserve currency has huge benefits for the United States of America. It makes our debt far more affordable. When we're a country already paying about $1 trillion a year on interest on the national debt, which is a whole separate conversation that we could spend an entire 10 podcast episodes on. But we know we have that problem. And so lowering that interest rate is a huge deal. Being the world's reserve currency lowers that and gives stability to the United States markets. Generally, as a U.S. policymaker, people wouldn't be concerning themselves with how maybe a day laborer in Argentina or an entrepreneur in Portugal is getting paid. But with the invention and with the creation, the development of this stablecoin legislation, stablecoin usage around the globe, all underlined by the U.S. dollar, ultimately, many of these people could be getting paid in functionally in a U.S. dollar-backed stablecoin, further cementing the United States as the world reserve currency. That is a big deal for U.S. policymakers and for citizens in the United States of America. It's another reason why U.S. policymakers have to get this right, because if we do, we can really cement the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency, and there's massive benefits for the U.S. economy in doing that.
Oh, for sure. And then on the crypto markets, market structure side, the implications, it feels like we are in the fourth industrial revolution with all these technologies, blockchain, crypto, AI, obviously a lot of which you're heading up as a chairman. But this could create a lot of jobs, new innovation, new technologies. Are you anticipating once these things are passed, we see a boom in the United States with jobs and capital investment and much more?
I think that's right. And I think what we as a policymaker need to do is make sure that we're setting up the framework for this to be successful as companies come in, innovate, and develop. My goal is to make sure we're doing that here in the United States. So if we step back and look historically at the development of Web 2 technologies in the United States, and we said, what really is separating the United States of America right now from many of our take our Western European allies, for example, is largely the fact that large Web 2 companies are domiciled in the US. So if I have my challenges with big tech, I think many of your viewers and listeners probably do as well. With the exception of TikTok, one of the challenges we don't have is that they're domiciled here in the United States of America. TikTok's an exception to that rule. And so as we look at Web3, as we put in place the framework, in particular on the market structure side, we have a huge opportunity to encourage that innovation and development to occur here in the United States by our rules and regulations, but also being to the benefit of U.S. workers and U.S. technology. And so I think we're really at the cusp of the development in Web3, in the Web3 space. And if we get this right, as it relates to market structure, as it relates to stablecoin, we have a huge opportunity to encourage that innovation and development here in the United States to the benefit of American workers.
And then on the other side of the token, you have the president and David Sachs, the White House crypto czar, and Bo Hines and folks are looking to establish a Bitcoin reserve and also a digital stockpile. What are your thoughts on this? And are we at another Bretton Woods moment, kind of what we saw after World War II, with the US dollar and gold and so forth, but now adding crypto into the mix?
I think there's going to be a lot of interesting and creative ideas coming to the table. In particular, the administration has come forward with the idea that you just discussed. I think we're going to see more and more kind of information coming out of where the administration is as it relates to some of these unique and different ideas. I'm excited to see where they're at. I'd say the gorilla in the room right now is the two big pieces of legislation we just discussed, which is going to be market structure and stablecoin. And then as we break through that, as we get to summer, I think that opens up the door for us to look and explore other areas inside the crypto space.
That's a great point. I don't think I've thought of that, that we probably need to have the guardrails, the regulations in place before the government itself can even take an action like this. Yes, we can plan. Yes, we can figure out an avenue what works, but the actual action will probably have to come after Congress passes legislation.
Well, and we can look back at what the Biden administration was doing when Gary Gensler was chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And so Gary Gensler came in under our current rules and regulations, the ones that are on the books today, and took really overly aggressive, draconian action against innovation and development in this space. We have an opportunity to both to look back at what I call choke point 2.0 as the overreach of the Biden administration in this space, to review what went wrong, but also to really lay out the regulatory framework to prevent that from ever occurring in the future. And so these regulators have to follow the law. The law just wasn't clear in this space, and Gary Gensler, then as chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, took a really aggressive view against digital assets, against crypto, and against, in my opinion, innovation here in the United States. And so what I want to do is make sure that we get this framework passed, we get it right, and then that's really going to unleash a lot of innovation and development in this space as people no longer feel the level of concern they had when President Biden and Gary Gensler were at the helm.
Oh, for sure. Now, talk to us a bit about how government can use blockchain. We see what Elon's doing with Doge. He also put it out there that he would love to put government spending on the blockchain for more transparency, efficiency. And it seems like this technology can be used with voting to make our voting process more efficient, also weed out fraud, and even on the spending side. Do you see, like, maybe 20, 30 years from now, all these things are running on blockchain, we have more transparency and so forth?
Yeah, I think as more and more things come on the chain, I think we have a huge opportunity for that. And then this is where the market works really well in general, right? And capital allocation is going to go to best use cases. Federal government officials should not be in the business of determining what the use cases are. The market should determine that. We're just putting in place a framework with which to unleash that American innovation and development. But you referenced two things that are kind of adjacent to that. One is the ability to be transparent as it relates to government spending. We can do that, maintain privacy, but also have that transparency. And that's a huge opportunity for us as we're making sure that we're getting our spending under control and removing waste, fraud, and abuse. The other side of this is I chair the Committee on Administration. It's the committee in Congress that oversees federal election law, operations of the House, and a handful of other things. But as we think about the benefits of blockchain technology, and we think about that as it relates to our voter rolls and relates to voting, there's a huge opportunity in that space. And so if you know innovators and developers in that space, let me know. But I actually am of the view that is a use case that has a huge opportunity for us.
Oh, for sure. More transparency, more efficiency. I'm all for that. So that's really great. Are there any upcoming hearings that we should know about as it relates to digital assets?
We have a hearing coming up in the first week of April as it relates to market structure. That's been announced. We'll get the information out to you so you can share it with everybody. But people should be tuning in. I mean, these hearings that we're having are really laying out the core principles of the work that we are doing, in particular as it relates to finalizing an updated market structure bill. And in the near future, we're going to be reintroducing the updated draft of our stablecoin bill with the view that we're going to be in a position to mark that up and move that bill forward here in the House sooner rather than later. And so I think there's a huge opportunity in front of us. We're going to have a series of hearings and then hopefully legislation that we're marking up where we'll be able to announce that in the days ahead.
Awesome, Congressman Steil. I love it. I got some wrap-up questions here for you. First, if you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be?
Yeah, the theme would have to be something on politics, and I don't have an answer to you on that. That's a good question, but maybe we could make some efficiency across the board in our elections and campaigns.
For sure. Rapid fire questions. Favorite food?
I eat Italian. I'll eat like any pasta, any Italian food you give me.
Favorite musician or band?
Oh, that is a tough question because I jump around all the time on that. I like country music, and then it's kind of like, who am I listening to in any given day? I went to a Jonathan Childers concert not that long ago, and some amazing stuff coming out of new country music.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I went back and watched The Godfather a couple weekends ago, and I don't know how you get better than The Godfather.
Yeah, it's great. Favorite book?
I am telling everyone to read Chris Dixon's Read, Write, Own book. So I don't know if I can actually claim that's my favorite, but I can tell you it's one of the best ways to get people up to speed on digital assets and crypto that don't have a background yet in it. Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. I tell everybody to read, and at a minimum, read the first 20 pages where you'll get about 90% of the info for people that are not living and breathing in this space.
Oh, for sure. Great book. And finally, when you're not doing your congressional duties, what are you doing for fun as a hobby?
Man, in the winter, which is now we're at the tail end of in Wisconsin, I cross country ski. And then in the summer, I bike. And so we're in that transition period from cross country skiing to biking.
Awesome. Congressman Steil, appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me and looking forward to the future updates.
Thanks for having me on.